Guys, it is Tamara. Thank you so much for coming back to my channel. Welcome back. Today, I think we're going to switch up the topic a little bit. I've talked a lot about emotionally detached and unavailable parents for quite a while now on the channel, but I think it's time for me to switch up this topic just a little bit to make sure that I'm giving all of you exactly what it is that you need. I always revisit these topics throughout the year, so we're going to come back to this topic, but today I want to talk just a little bit about something that I've been talking a lot about with people who consult with me, and some of my clients who have been with me for years, and they're just seeing me for maintenance and to kind of grow. And I think the topic today, I can title it Unmasking Self-Hatred, Low Self-Esteem, and the Consequences of Trauma. So let's just go ahead and jump in, and I'll explain to you as we go along what we're talking about. Thank you so much for coming back to my channel. For all of you who are subscribed and participating, thank you so much. And for those who are new, I encourage you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button right over here so you can stick around with us and be a part of our growing and validating community. And in case you don't know anything about me, let me go ahead and briefly introduce myself. My name is Tamara, and I'm an internationally and board certified trauma therapist, but I'm also licensed in mental health, and I specialize within my practice working with children, teens, families, as well as adults. So let's go ahead and jump in. So, a lot of you have talked about tools on this channel that you feel that would be helpful to you, such as knowing how to manage a certain relationship, knowing how to manage a narcissistic individual, knowing how to manage your emotionally detached and unavailable parent, knowing how to come against or block and kind of protect against, I suppose I should say, against people who are just manipulators and controllers and pathological liars. We talk about all of those things on this channel. In today's video, though, I want to highlight just a couple of things that I think that you can do to kind of reignite the control in your life and to kind of really take hold of the things that have been holding you back. We've gone through such an emotional year in 2020. 2019 wasn't all that great either, towards the end of 2019. And then we hit 2020 and haywire, just everything just went haywire. And then here we are in 2021, and for a lot of us, it doesn't look like it's getting any better. And quite frankly, even though I'm a therapist, I find myself sometimes being a little bit pessimistic, Some of my kids that see me for therapy, they're like, "No, Miss Tamara, you're realistic." And I'm like, "No, I'm pessimistic." I think the world is ending. But, when you really do pause and you think about it, you look around and you say, okay, wait a minute. Aren't we in 2021? Like, why isn't things getting any better? And, so things get a little bit overwhelming emotionally and psychologically for a lot of us because we don't know exactly where we are or where we should be. So, I think it's helpful for us to kind of, explore where we're at right now and just kind of talk about some things that could maybe bolster our confidence and our energy levels. So let me explain to you how self-hatred and low self-esteem and the intra-personal aspects of trauma or the consequences of trauma can really impact you. Despite whatever it is that you've dealt with, I'm sure you look at yourself and you say, why can't I heal? Why can't I get from this point to that point? Why am I still stuck in my trauma? I talk a lot about that right up here in this video in case you haven't seen it, but I'm sure you ask yourself that question. Why haven't I been able to heal from my trauma? Why am I still kind of stuck? And I think there's a couple of reasons why, okay? And I want to mention them right now and then we'll continue on. So one of the reasons why I think, you can kind of get stuck in the consequences of your trauma is life experiences after the trauma. Let's say you've been, a child who was abused and neglected for many years through your childhood, your adolescence, and even your young adulthood, and you're just now getting away from that abusive parent or that abusive caregiver or that abusive spouse, and now you're trying to regain the control in your life and live again. But why are you still stuck? Well, you might want to look at your life experiences, If you're dealing with other things compounding the trauma, then it's going to kind of cause the trauma to really resurface, And I call that re-experiencing trauma. I talk a lot about that right up here in this video here. But re-experiencing your trauma, can really set you back a couple feet, Maybe you did make some progress in some ways, even if you couldn't see what that progress was. But, that additional situation has compounded the issue, and now your trauma has resurfaced or rebloomed, and now you're trying to figure out exactly where you should be and what to do. And that can really make you feel stuck. Now, another situation that can kind of help your trauma to resurface or cause you to re-experience that trauma would be stormy relationships. If you've gotten away from your trauma and you're trying to heal, you're in therapy, you're getting consultation, you're really trying to focus on the things that can help you, and yet you're still stuck. One of the reasons why could very well be a stormy relationship. Relationships have a really big impact on how we see ourselves, how we regulate our emotions, how we feel about ourselves and the world around us, how we even perform in our world. Relationships are extraordinarily important. You can't have a negative relationship and think because, that's just a relationship with benefits, or that's just a bad relationship with my mother, it doesn't really impact me. You can't really do that. You can't sideline that bad relationship and think, why is my life not going forward? It's that relationship you've put on the sidelines, So you got to kind of push that out of the way. You got to figure out how to get that out of your way, how to set appropriate boundaries, how to protect yourself, how to protect your values, your morals, and your dignity. And then you might see yourself come out of that trauma, or you won't see your trauma be so prominent in your world anymore. Okay, so stormy relationships. The next thing is lost opportunities. When we lose opportunities that could better us, that could really cause our trauma to resurface. It could cause us to feel really inadequate. And something known as self-efficacy right over here is an important part of who we are as well. We could have a negative self-efficacy, or we can have a positive self-efficacy, meaning we can have a negative way that we see our ability to do things, or we can have a positive view on our ability to do things, So that's important. We also have a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you have a negative self-fulfilling prophecy because of a lost opportunity, a negative self-fulfilling prophecy or a self-fulfilling prophecy, then if it's negative, you might find yourself really taking your character and everything you've worked for and everything you've become and really minimizing it. And then you might find yourself comparing, to other people, looking outside of your lane. I like to say that a lot to my clients. Don't look at other people. Don't look at that car in their lane. You don't know what it took for them to get as far as they got in their lane. You don't know what they've gone through in their lane. So stay in your lane. And so I say that a lot to my clients because I think it's really important. I even have to say that to myself, So another thing would be environmental factors. It could be things going on in your environment, right? Maybe you're living in the wrong neighborhood. Maybe you're living in a very competitive neighborhood. There's tons of those around. Maybe you're dealing with a very manipulative and narcissistic boss who makes your daily life, a headache. Maybe you're sitting next to coworkers at work that, really are jealous of you and they really make you feel small and they really try to, dampen your ability to feel important and smart and helpful and useful, So environmental factors, really do impact how you're managing your own self-esteem, your self-efficacy, your worth, and the impact of trauma in your life, okay? And last but not least in this realm is risk factors are things that I talk a lot about on this channel because, risk factors are things that kind of slow us down. It kind of stops us. It makes us more vulnerable to life. Risk factors such as, growing up in a bad neighborhood, being a delinquent youth, having substance abusing parents, being neglected and abused, experiencing repeated complex traumas as a child, adolescent, or young adult, doing drugs yourself, being truant in school, getting into a lot of fights, being in legal trouble, being in the criminal justice system. All of those things are risk factors and they make life, what am I trying to say here, guys? I'll put it this way, they make it a little bit more difficult for you to really experience life in a positive way. That's what I'm trying to say. So I think it's important to really focus on those risk factors. What is behind me that I need to really work out if I can, so that I can have a better future and so that I can come out of this trauma that's keeping me stuck. Okay, now there are a couple of ways that you might try to gain or maintain homeostasis in your life. Here's the definition of homeostasis. Basically what it is balance. And here's a couple of ways that you might be trying to do that isn't helpful. You're having a little bit of a hard time figuring out what's going to work, what's not going to work. Why aren't I healing? I'm doing all of this and yet I'm still not healing. Well, let me talk about something known as homeostasis. Homeostasis, right over here, the definition, is basically your attempts to regain some balance and control. And I think when you've dealt with trauma, you really do. You're trying to like grasp for homeostasis. You're over there grabbing for that and you're over here grabbing for that. And you feel like because you're in psychotherapy and because you're getting support or because you're away from the trauma, things should be better. But perhaps you're trying to gain and maintain homeostasis the wrong way. So here's a couple of ways that you might be trying to do it that is incorrect or maybe not helpful to you. One way would be money, buying things, filling your life with material because you think that that's going to make you happy. You think that that's going to kind of numb you for a little bit, and it might, but only for a little bit. And then you're going to go back to feeling the pain again. So money, material things, material wealth, vanity, all of that. Okay. Another way that some people try to maintain or gain homeostasis in their life is sex and relationships, substance abuse, performing on the road, music. Having a music career is, nothing's wrong with that, but some people really throw themselves into the music industry, or they really beat themselves down trying to fit into the mold of a pop star, or trying to fit into the mold of celebrity status or entertainment, and sometimes they go a little bit too far. Years ago, when I worked in a juvenile delinquent facility, I had a young man who was really trying to make it in his rapping career, and he was Caucasian and Mexican. Great kid. The unfortunate reality is that he was selling his soul just to become famous and throwing money out there and staying up late nights trying to put together dubs and music and trying to really make it big. And it really broke him down emotionally. It really broke his morals down as well, and it broke him down cognitively. And unfortunately, he ended up getting into some legal trouble trying to make it as a rapper. He was at the wrong place at the wrong time and had way too much drugs on him, and unfortunately he ended up going to jail for some time, and I lost him. I couldn't hold on to him any longer as a therapist. But I noticed in that particular situation that really he was trying to fill a void, and that void was the void of childhood trauma, of being neglected, of feeling pain in life. And he figured that if I just make it big, if I just fit into the mold of a rapper or pop star, I can be okay. It's going to heal me. And the reality is that it's not. So that's another way. I just said drugs and alcohol, but there's also another side of that too. Over-the-counter medications and frequently seeing doctors to make sure that you're healthy and you're well. Really struggling with what's called a somatoform disorder. Here's a definition. Really struggling with that, and there's no answers, but you're going to kind of self-medicate to see if you can make things better. Sometimes that's your way of trying to gain homeostasis, and it's really just making things worse, smoking a lot of marijuana and really clouding up your brain, and really, using that as a crutch because you're physically in pain or you're really struggling with the reality of something is not going to help. I think we need to get to, those of us who are struggling in life today, really need to get to the foundation of what's wrong first, and then we can go to those other things. I think that's the main issue here with all of these things I'm mentioning. When you're trying to gain homeostasis, you don't want to just choose a method and say, okay, that's going to work for me, forget everything else. You want to be able to deal with the root of the issue if you can, and then start adding little by little some additional things that may be helpful to you, like counseling and medication and things like that. Okay. Another way that people try to maintain homeostasis or somehow gain it is by really catering to their sexual needs. And sometimes that can turn into prostitution. It could turn into a sex addiction, and it can also turn into frequent use of pornography. And in really severe cases, it can turn into somebody molesting a child or raping. Okay. Because what happens is you're hurting from what you've gone through, and then you overindulge in something, and then you develop these desires and these urges, and then boom, you're in a situation where you get overcome by that, or you take advantage of somebody. And so that can be a way some people are trying to maintain homeostasis, by really indulging and overindulging in sexual interests. And things can really go the wrong way if you're not careful. And another way I think that people try to maintain and gain homeostasis in their life is through narcissism, right? Really becoming vain and shallow and focusing on how they look, and focusing on, how thin they can get, or how curvy they can get, right? And also facades, really like wearing those masks every day, all day, because it protects you from the reality of your ultimate trauma or your ultimate pain. And so, these are ways that are not really helpful. And I talk a lot about these things on this channel in various ways. And I think moving forward, I want to talk about ways that you can reignite control in your life. Because when you're on the edge and you feel like you're giving up, you're going to look somewhere for the control. And that might come from these poor ways of trying to maintain and gain homeostasis. Thank you so much for being here with me today, guys, in this video. I encourage you to give it a thumbs up and go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you can stick around with us. And if this video was helpful, I encourage you to share it with others. That helps the channel a ton when you watch the videos all the way through, when you share, when you link this video with other videos on YouTube. It helps a ton. So thank you so much for doing that. I see you guys are doing that. I really appreciate that. So let me know in the comment section below if you want more videos like this, and let me know if you want to see particular topics. That helps me to zone in on things that will interest you. I'll see you soon in the next video. Bye-bye.